Hello, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to this webinar on the mice industry. We're very grateful to our sponsors, Chaplin's World, who you've just heard from, and I hope you may indeed hear from them again at the end of of this discussion. My job really is just to start off, just to welcome our contributors here, Fiona, Sri, and Milind. And I'll get them to introduce themselves in a second. Unfortunately, the representative from In Orbit Tours could not make this webinar, so we have just our very precious three interlocutors here. The topic of discussion is mice. It is, I suppose, it's quite important for those of you who are not familiar with this. It's obviously not a discussion on rodent control. It's a discussion of the meetings and incentive industry coming from India into Europe. And this is going to be really interesting because India, as you will have heard from our earlier discussions of what's happening in India, India is the hot economy on earth. It's got the largest population on earth. It's growing at 6% a year. It's got none of the demographic problems besetting European and other Asian countries. It's got a huge population which is young, and it's just signed two mega trade deals with the European Union and North America. So all the dials are set to fair, if not boom, for India, and the meetings and incentive industry should be absolutely at the heart of it. So this is what might be described as one of the hot topics at the moment. Anyway, I'm going to get everyone to introduce themselves, and I'll just start with Fiona. Fiona, please start.
Thank you, Tom, for your kind introduction and also the opportunity to meet here and to exchange. So my name is Fiona. I work for Mickey Travel, and we are stationed here with the MICE team where we do supporting all our regional offices out of Bangkok. So the team of the creative team within Mickey, we sit and stationed inside Bangkok, where we also have a big office here. So my team members, we support the regional areas, the offices of Mickey with actually itemized quotations, which I think we will discuss later on MICE. But this is now where Mickey is venturing more and more into Europe, supporting big markets like India, where we are now helping Milind and his teams to set up a structure where we can support the agents and also the customers to have a happy grow together.
Thank you, Fiona. I'll just hand over straight over to Milind because Fiona, you're in Bangkok as I speak. Am I right?
Yes, correct.
Over to you.
Hi, Tom. This is Milind. I take care of the India market. We have two offices in India, predominantly catering to all the key agents, including Mr. Sriram's office. The catering products that we have is for series, the group series, which moves into Europe. Then we have the ad hoc business, and the major part now is MICE. And we cater to every possible request, be it the culinary part of it, be it the culture part of it, the tradition part of it, or the entire holiday part of it. India is all about it's fun-filled. It's more of information that people require of Europe, and they really enjoy the European holidays within their MICE or the incentive part of it. That's us in Mickey Travel India.
Thanks, Milind. Thanks, Tom and Fiona. This is Sriram. I represent Club 7 Holidays. We are a pretty old company, as old as me. We are a 38-year-old company. The company started, India is a continent, though we call it as a country. So this company started from east of India, and slowly we have expanded across India in all regions. I had the privilege of working with Milind in my earlier company. We were colleagues in QONI before. We, as a company, we do series business to Europe and across the world, and we do MICE and FITs. In terms of the overall business, MICE constitutes almost 50% of it. Out of the 50%, almost of MICE, 70 to 80% of it is to Europe. So that is the major thing. While I'm talking, I have a group in Budapest going on. So because we are from East, we have different type of client requirements and their preferences. I operate out of my head office in Mumbai.
Well, thank you very much. That's a pretty quick summary. I think, can I just ask you now, what the business is looking like? I mean, how did everything go in 2025, and what are things looking like for 26 and 27? Can I just in reverse order then? Sri, I'll start with you, and we'll go backwards.
Yeah, Tom. See, honestly speaking, 2025, I'll start from my company. Probably Milind and Fiona can talk about the market because they handle other agents also. 2025 is not best of the years for the leisure industry in India because of multiple reasons. There was some socio-economic issues going on, and India had a major outbreak of war-like a situation in the month of May and June. So there is a bit of a sentiment. Then it is coupled with the airline ban over few countries. So the leisure this year has not taken, means 25 has not taken off the way it should have been. But thanks to MICE, we could recover most part of it. That is the blessing in disguise for us in the current year. So the sentiments changed quickly. So one very good thing, Tom, Indians forget fast. So the Indians don't remember things for a long time. So after July, the MICE offtake has taken place. And while I'm talking to you, those were the days where in the month of January, February, we never done a MICE business into Europe. Now the clients are also receptive to do that. So having said that, the year overall has been, I won't say great, but definitely we can stand up and say that we are looking forward to 26.
Okay. Milind, would you echo that sentiment?
Yes, I
So
believe, just second to Mr. Sriram's point, firstly, yes, there was a significant breakthrough which happened post July, and the new thing which we experienced was not the regular MICE which was operating like the selective destinations or the light destinations of Switzerland and France, out of which Zurich is mainly invaded and also Paris. But this last year, at the flag end, I would rather say around September's and October's and November's, people really fancied around destinations like Norway or Sweden, which really blew up the entire proportion of we understanding minds differently. And the groups were big enough. It was more than 700, 800 people traveling together around these high pocket destinations. And there were also few groups which moved around in the Croatian part, which is again a little tight for us on the visa part. But the council was kind enough to kind of accommodate these groups of mice, and they were all five-star hotels and all the five-star services. They wanted something which is different, not the regular one. So there was a bit of transition which I've seen in mice, which regular mice is always there. However, people moving into such kind of destinations is something which really happened last year.
Fiona,
Sorry,
excuse me, I was on mute. Fiona, do you echo this impression of what happened last year and what is happening this year? And actually, given your perspective, you're very much in Bangkok. You can look at the Indian demand in the context of Asian demand. I mean, is there anything particular about particularly different about India as opposed to everywhere else?
Well, yes, I think market-wise, Milind can reflect because he himself is in the destination. We in the hub, we do the logistics to support and try to get the right products, right? So we can see now, especially for now this year, that the demand is there to go even more out of the box, right? So that's a bit what we can see for now 2026 and moving over to 2027 is to find destinations where we can say, can we cater or can we be Indian friendly, right? So that we have to find places which support and understand the requirements. Because at the end, if people work together, they're happy, then the output is good. But if we squeeze something into a destination which doesn't fit because culinary isn't there, or maybe also the understanding, then there's a pain. But definitely the area of Balkans, as I think Milind mentioned, Croatia, it's going further. It's going into now Romania. It's going into Albania. So we are going into the whole Balkans area, which maybe I think is a bit untapped for the Indian market. But all the research we have done and also all the execution from other markets where we can, take the expertise and we reflect, we work with suppliers who understand the food, but we definitely can see a demand into these areas now coming up, which goes maybe towards more untapped areas where we also have to work closely with the embassies to, I think for Romania, as Milind says, is still a challenge, but that's where we maybe can work together and support the agents to overcome this in order to also get the business there, because the facilities, I would say Romania is very, very convenient for the Indian market. They have many, many restaurants. They have the good understanding. They themselves have a lot of vegetarian food. They have Indian community. So I think if we can find the right destination and we match, that's how we can also deliver new places and bring new experiences to the mice market, which is quite mature in India, because they are traveling in bigger groups for a long time. But sometimes we just underestimate that it gets bigger and bigger and they always want new things. And therefore it really pushes now into new territory, which is nice to see, because there's less competition, because it's untapped and we can still deliver wow factors, which maybe is that what they're looking for, right?
What you're alluding to is the fact that, in the mice market, obviously you're looking for something that makes the clients, your delegates, they want to say they've been treated exceptionally well and have been given something they would not have otherwise experienced. And you're saying what you can do is you can do this. How can I put this? You can do this in places like Romania in a way which is broadly unfeasible if you're trying to do that in the UK or France or Italy. Romania is open for discussions, I think is what you're saying. And so if a destination wants one of these groups, and the size of the group you're saying is up to 700 people?
Yes. It's big size groups, yeah.
And this is
broadly. Just to kind of
sorry.
Give your perspective.
Milind,
just to give your perspective, we are working on a group of close to say about 1,000 people with a destination of Nice and Rome. This is approximately around June. So there is a huge crowd which is moving around and selecting the destinations which are much more leisure or maybe an FIT centric one. But these guys are moving into such kind of luxurious destinations now. So it's no more basics of only doing 3 nights or 4 nights into Zurich and maybe a 3 night or a 4 night into France. So it's actually getting into another level of mice.
Right.
I have Milind. Sorry to butt in here. See,
Sri, please butt in whenever you want. Yeah. There's no problem.
Okay.
There are only a few of us here, please.
Because when Milind told the more mice group goes into a leisure destination, we have also seen this happening a lot. But only challenge which probably I have encountered with, I don't want to name the agency or anybody. Definitely, it is not Mickey, so you don't need to get worried. See, what is happening is the customer, when they are choosing a destination or yeah, leisure destination, they what happens is in a mice, probably the MD of the company or the CXO of the company has visited that place, and they say that now I want to take my dealers there. So they have to also keep in mind certain destinations are not for the mice crowd. It is probably for the leisure and probably a group of 50 or 100. I had a very torrid time. I can mention the destination. The client wanted to do Lake Como. Okay, I
Oh.
had 700 people. After that, I realized what a mess I got into because
Mm.
that destination, getting transporting them and taking them to Bellagio Island and back,
Bellagio.
and all those things, it was a nightmare for me. So
Mm.
sometimes what happens is it is better that we keep the expectation of the CXOs right by saying, see, this is a destination, leisure destination. If you want to do a MICE, don't try to do like how you have done on a personal holiday. It may be a MICE outing. It is not a your personal is having a cup of coffee near the lake and having. So that is not going to happen. Sorry,
Mm.
this is my personal view. Sometimes the exotic location turns out to be a nightmare for us.
Absolutely,
Mm.
When
absolutely.
Fiona was telling about Romania, I was thinking, if what happens if all the 700 people want to do a Dracula tour?
I will buy out all the castles.
I think I think Romania could cope. Is the short answer, but I know it, Como in the way that Como wouldn't. And you're
Yeah.
quite right. There is. I speak from a group tourism point of view, and we were forever being beset with American senior executives having a nice time in one specific spot and trying to send several hundred people there, admittedly in groups of 50, and it just didn't work. It just wasn't possible. It doesn't function. And the sheer volume of what you're dealing with is quite extraordinary. But you touched on it slightly earlier, Fiona, that there are very specific. If I can go back to 101 for some of the people watching this, they won't have coped with an Indian mice group before. What are the logistical and cultural things that have to be factored in? And you've touched on food, but it might be worthwhile explaining what you mean by that.
Well, I think on the food side, maybe Milin can share a little bit the experience that we had
Yep.
in Scandinavia, because I think
So in fact,
the best is always talk about recent and about
Yeah.
elements where we also said maybe how we overcome the challenges, because I think food is one of the key issues to understand if you want to talk about an Indian movement, right?
yeah.
Brilliant.
So yes, to cater to such kind of important requests, I would rather say yes. Food and the culinary part is the essential thing for Indians. Wherever they travel, they need their kind of food, and we in Europe, it's actually possible to give it to you. There are various versions to operate. Hello.
Yes, we can
Well,
hear you.
we can hear you.
Yeah.
So there are various versions that the Indian restaurants, the Indian food suppliers have kind of arranged it in Europe. Just to quickly say, it's the restaurants of Indians are all available across Europe. Similarly, when the group size grows bigger and the restaurant seats are not being able to accommodate, they work on a basis of venue hiring, and the entire food is being supplied there with the elaborate menus that we normally carry. One unique part which runs in Europe is kitchen caravan. So kitchen caravan is something like a food truck. It's a licensed truck with hygiene formalities being done with the government and so on and so forth. And this food truck can actually service to more than 100 to 200 people at a time. So this food truck has five burners into it, and it runs on a propane gas. And they have five chefs inside the kitchen caravan, and they can just dock it into the refuge areas or maybe the hotel backside parking areas, or maybe on the If it is on the street, the gardens allow with the prior permissions and they cook their food there. So these are few arrangements being highly done on in Iceland, in the remotest of the places in around the Geiranger area in Scandinavia, or the basics is you can actually do it in France, in Lyon, or you can just do it anywhere around the western part of the Europe. Similarly, Balkans had an issue with this part of food arrangements, but there are few food vendors who have also overcome that with taking the proper permissions and the formalities are being done. So from this year, they can actually operate kitchen caravan into any Balkan area, be it Montenegro, be it your Albania, be it in the Zagreb or Dubrovnik. So food is again essential, and I think it's been provided right. We have to just inform the customers how it operates and how it's been hygienically done, and basis that, I think this the entire Indian tourist can run around. Second part, as you touched upon, is the culture. Yes, normally people the space, the itinerary demands is more of a gala dinner for their station programs or maybe their R&R. But nowadays, people are also looking from cultural background where they go to Cologne, they want to visit the Cologne Cathedral with a guide, or maybe if they're going into they want to see the St. Peter's stuff. So it's not only basic. People are also moving towards the cultural part and the traditional part of the place that they visit. Traditionally, one of the we arranged in Prague and Budapest. We went with the group and they demanded for a Palinka village. Now, this village is a very old village, and the locals normally stay there. They make the Palinka drink, and they have the wedding ceremonies being done. So we actually made the group move like a wedding ceremony, and they really enjoyed it. Close to about 100. They really liked the cultural part. We actually spent around about 6 to 7 hours in that village, visiting the chapel, visiting the entire cobblers, and the artmanship being done there. So it's beautiful when we actually explore a lot of things differently, and the customers also kind of seconding the stuff. One more thing is they are also open few groups which we are handling. I'm just taking one group in the next week to Switzerland, and they are doing the wine tasting, which is in the vineyards of the Swiss area, and they are also exploring the glass factory, which is there around Interlaken. So this is something new which is coming up, and people are really enjoying this bit.
Three.
I'm just adding to what Milind was talking about the food. Okay, though Milind explained very nicely regarding the food and things like that, I again reiterate the Indian mentality in terms of food. Though for people sitting in Europe, Indian food is Indian food. But definitely when we take mice, we take culturally diverse guy from south of India to north of India to east of India to west of India. So what happens is one food doesn't fit with all the Indians. So the challenge is also not only giving Indian food, to give food for, see, at least in a 4 night, 5 days, at least one meal for every region has to be there. Otherwise, your tour will not get the maximum reception on food. Otherwise, what happens is the tour will go very well. The suppose the North India, it is North Indian dominated food, then South Indian will say food is bad, though you would have served the best of the food to them. So this is also a challenge, but honestly, most of the European part is also understanding this issue, and most of the time they serve the Indian food in the Indian regional food. In fact, there are some typical food which I don't know whether you know. It is called dosa, idli, that is served armrest. So the restaurateurs also understand the typicality of Indian food. It is not only one single food. That is one part of it. Second, which probably Milind and Fiona can also give me an input. Nowadays, for the last probably post-COVID, I'm seeing Indians are more receptive to have the local food which they are assured of what exactly it is. Earlier, we used to have this challenge. If I say it's a local food, there is no from the corporate. Nowadays, if we say no, this is the food, probably I'm not talking about pizza, pasta. That is Indians know it. Now, more of a Mexican, more of I think people are more receptive, and I think over a period of time, if they are given a little bit of, I think this food definitely they need Indian food. I'm not saying they are going, but at least one or two lunches because we spend a lot of time especially lunches, taking them around to Indian restaurant so that at least you lose an hour or 2 hours only for going to the restaurant, especially big groups of 500 and 600. You have to give yourself 2 to 3 hours for only serving them lunch. There is no sightseeing. So the tour manager and the coordinator will be coordinating with 4 restaurants, 5 restaurants, and this one to only serve lunch. So those time probably if we are able to give them a continental Indian receptive food, which is happening in most of the cases, that also will improve the quality of the itinerary and take them to the right places.
Correct,
I mean,
correct.
so,
And
so
thanks to the Instagram, because of the Instagram and a lot of reels coming in of a lot of restaurants and the areas and destinations, I think the mentality is slowly and gradually changing around the blue collared or the white collared people who travel. And I absolutely agree where people demand for one local or two local meals. And this has been appreciated because it's the meal is normally a three-course meal and people really enjoy this bit also. And of course, it has to be backed up by the Indian food, so they are pretty happy with whatever. And we make an effort, Chief, to kind of mix the cuisine between the South Indian cuisine, which you mentioned, the pancakes and so, and also the North Indian food, which is easily available in Europe because they usually eat pulses, which can be stored and the South Indian food is more a little more fermented, so it has to have a long kind of preparation bit. But it is being managed. It is being managed very well in places like France, Switzerland, and also in Budapest because there are a lot of Indian restaurants who have now hired
You
these
like
South
dosa?
Indian and multilingual chefs.
it's intriguing. I mean, I don't want to get off into a completely different subject here, but there are two elements to this, surely. One is that you talk about North Indian food and South Indian food, and obviously the provision of food in India is far more detailed and varied than just North and South. But primarily, the food in India, my understanding is it's domestic. It's not provided by restaurants. And there's an awful lot of, I never forget being, I think it was in Agra, watching a meal being delivered in a restaurant in a hotel. And I was told very formally that this was an English Indian dish that was being served. So there is an entire European Indian cuisine which has evolved, be it the whole notion of curry, for example, or the whole notion of baltis, for example. These are not Indian dishes; these are European Indian dishes. And I wonder if we can almost hit a neutrality there, insofar as this is a restaurant meal devised in Europe along Indian lines, and it has no regional specification because a Balti has no regional evolution. It comes from Birmingham, for crying out loud. It's not from anywhere in India. Anyway, we can get way off the subject on that point, but we've covered it. But you're saying, really, if I understand you, that look, one of the reasons why people are traveling to Europe, one of the reasons why people travel anywhere is to experience the food. And yes, they want to have things that are familiar to them when they're traveling. That is perfectly reasonable. They don't want to be. You look at Europeans in India or look at Europeans in Asia. They have Europe. They have European breakfasts. Excuse me. They don't have. They don't have congee in China. They don't have curd in India. They have what they want for breakfast, and it's being provided to them, and it's perfectly normal to mirror that provision when people are traveling in Europe. But it's also recognised that people do travel to experience local foods, and as long as it hits the the dietary requirements, then this should be provided. Particularly, you're saying Sri, if you're going to save 3 hours, if you're going to be able to provide local food efficiently, then this is not won't be unwelcome. It'll be welcome. No, that's a very interesting point. Are there any other cultural things that people should be sensitive about, or is there, do we need just to relax? Is there anything we need to think about?
See, basically, this is not prevalent everywhere, but sometimes when the Indians are very sensitive in terms of when they are eating. So mostly in Europe, I've seen certain restaurants restricts them. I'm not saying that. So what happens is a bit of I don't want to put it in a racial way, but certain times we also very sensitive in taking them to certain restaurants. Like for example, certain hotels tell us. I'm not saying the groups of 500 or 1,000. If the group size is 100, they say no, we don't want them to come and have the breakfast in the coffee shop. Let's do it in the. I'll give you a separate banquet area. So sometimes the Indians don't like it because Indians feel, especially for the breakfast, Milink and this one, they want to have live stations of eggs and all. So when what happens is these are certain culturally, see, for others they may think that there's a suddenly crowd of Indians coming, lot of noise. They talk. Indians are a bit loud in talking and all. So this is something which is a little sensitive according to me, because when I go with the group, then if they say don't go to the breakfast area, you go to your banquet and have your food. But this is one, but there are few others, but this is one thing which is very common.
Fiona, you're agreeing?
Yes, I think in Paris we had of course experiences where, but this was like many years ago. I do believe that, like China, it's a matter of also how do you prepare the group. Yeah, so basically I think it's that people are aware of what maybe is local there in that country. How do people react? What is the cultural standard that we can sync on both sides? So I think preparation and also to tell them the expectations is important, that when the group arrives that we can treat them equally and that they also feel comfortable because they know what is expected or what is being done there, so that they understand if it's live sessions, or if they also have, I don't know, maybe there are some special Indian dishes which will then be added, so they feel also special that we cater to that. The same as we call them these Asian dishes, which if we have Japanese groups or people from other countries, they feel like we pay attention to these details. So I think breakfast is where the day starts, where you can catch the people that they see, they cater for me, they have something special, so they feel good. So I do believe it's a little detail, as Srinam says, but it can make a big difference.
It's interesting. Sorry.
Just to add Fiona's point and also Sriram's point, the hotels are now smartly tied up with the Indian restaurants around. So, because typically the Indian groups do ask for their delicacies to be added. So, the breakfast is normally having the American full spread breakfast of the hotel, and then two more dishes coming in from out, a dry Indian snack being served there. So, this is kind of a very, very, very important draft which comes to us while we quote to the group back. And the hotels initially were a little apprehended that why should we have an outside food being served on our table? But now they understand that there's a requirement, and the hotels have started tying up with the local restaurants, and this is getting solved now.
That's interesting. I think the one thing I would say is that your feeling of exclusion because you've been given a separate area for breakfast.
Yeah.
Is not unique to India or indeed any group of people. It's merely due to the fact that hotels tend to isolate groups in different areas. As a tour guide leading Americans around Europe, one of the big problems besetting me taking Americans around Europe taking Americans around the UK is that invariably the group got housed in a separate breakfast room. So it's not to do with it being an incentive group or an Indian group. It's just because you're a group and they get put in a different area. The only thing you can insist on is that the service and provision is the same.
Yeah.
And you're actually doing one better. You're saying the provision should be different and better because you want to have specific items there. So, I mean, there are reasons for this. I'm not defending it. Well, one of the experiences.
No, I'm also saying that it's only a sensitive. People have to be explained in the way it has to be.
No.
Then they're happy.
Look, we've got to understand the customers. This is the point. I mean, this is crucial. Anyway, now I'm just saying, if you were a destination, if you were a hotel, how would you go about selling yourself to the Indian market? I'm going to start with Fiona because you're immediately hearing about this in Bangkok, and you're watching people try and do it, and you're in Mickey. Obviously, you're overseeing the all the data in terms of what's been fed to you and you're costing it. How would you go about it?
Well, I think I might start. This goes way back, when actually in Kony times. So actually, also Srinam, I'm also ex-Kony. So I think
that's good. Yes, small world.
I was 25 years. So I think we all come from really the roots where we know that how do we want to deliver quality travel? Because I think at the end that's happy people equals to quality, and that's when in Switzerland when we started actually with an Indian village in Engelberg, right? We're in Engelberg. We wanted to find ways to start with Stefan Egli right at that time. Yes, to enter, and it was something totally new in Switzerland, right? So how do we go about, right? So it was a big PR stint when we got started, but we selected a hotel which maybe had low capacity, was willing to listen, was willing to learn, and was willing to have a DJ, a washing area, was catering to all the demands because this is what they wanted, right? So I think number one, you need to understand it's not just a business just you do if you don't understand the culture, right? So I think the key is really, are you set to deliver? Because you have to know what takes and what you need to do in order to also attract the customers. And this is, I think the key is if you have a product, it's either you want to mix, so you have to see where that was the leisure segment, which Kony at that time we started with. And I think also in Mickey, we have certain products where we find we have a signature product where we get the right rates with the right service and position it for this destination where we can also stand for the quality that we deliver. And we know that we will not have complaints because we're not saying where the customers are coming from, right? So it's important when we place the groups that they know the origin and that they also accept and they honor this, right? So there are products which fit, but it's a two-side communication. So it's not just that Mickey can place groups anywhere we want. It really has to fit, and in order to do that, there are many conditions that you have to check before. But it's a joint, it's a teamwork with the suppliers, and also then at the destination to get the right fit, right?
I just add only one thing, Fiona, what you told. Since you're not named the hotel, I am also not naming. But after Kony did it, that hotel became a premium hotel.
Yes.
It was high demand. Then other operators told that no, we want that hotel only, because when they come back after a long day of Switzerland, there is a masala chai on the reception where the people can drink. So sometimes you are absolutely right. You have created a product. Actually, you have created the thing which is more receptive to a community or for a nationality. I think that's a right way of looking at it.
You're implying that there is a kind of sweet spot of hospitality that needs to be established and developed for the Indian market.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily, it's sui generis insofar as it's not a European notion of hospitality. It's an Indian notion of hospitality because you are dealing with the Indian market. This is not unreasonable. I mean, I did, just to give you a comparison, when I too worked for a large multinational company many years ago, we initiated a series of consumer insights as to what they really liked and the whole hotel they most liked. And we were using all sorts of grand hotels in Europe. But the hotel they most liked was a modern hotel on the outskirts of Florence. And we're looking at Chica properties, we're looking at every property in Europe. The one that went down best with the American market at that stage, and we are dealing with nearly 30 years ago, was a new, very modern, very large, newly built property on the outskirts of Florence that had ice cold air conditioning, large rooms, 2 double beds, showers that really worked, and a swimming pool in the grounds. Excuse me, you want your home comforts, and this provided it with them. And
Well said. Well said.
and you know perfectly well that if you go to a very grand hotel in the center of Florence, you are going to get probably quite a small room, and the shower will be there, but it will not work at the optimum level, and the air conditioning may not work at the optimum level. This just delivered on that level. So anyway, I believe the crucial point is that there are certain things that you can do, and having this does not cost a lot of money. But you need to adapt to it. That's a really interesting insight. And I just want to touch on seasonality because you've alluded to the fact that they, are going at different times of the year. Is there any? But you also mentioned that you had groups going to Nice in June, which is not a low season option; it's a high season option. Is there any particular seasonality that you can see, Milind? Milind, I'll start with you. Is there any seasonality to this demand?
Seasonality to the tours, yes, when it comes to the high-end people traveling around and they want to see the best of the location at the best time. But when it's the dealers traveling around, when there's a larger crowd passing by, they normally look at a low-hanging month where the airlines are available, where the locations are kind of free and easy to kind of get more hotel rooms in one stop. So when I specifically say a Switzerland as a destination is now being treated as a 12 months destination, so people like that destination so much that they just travel to Switzerland. Paris is one of the destination which comes pretty well with the meetings and conferences and also incentive. There's one more destination is Amsterdam precisely, and they are also moving towards the Rotterdam area now because there are a lot of things which Rotterdam has to offer. So these are some basic destinations which are being done year round, but specifically when people want to do a travel to a Nice or maybe traveling to Croatia, they actually look at a seasonality which is more conducive to travel, a lot of things to be seen there, and that's how it is. So just to divide it, if in my sense, I think the creme people or maybe the groups operating around 2 coaches or 1 coach, the 50 or maybe 100 people, and the officers, I would rather say not the dealers, would be opting for the seasonality in the season and the right approach to that destination. Whereas when it comes to dealerships traveling, or maybe there is some hardcore incentive happening, they are actually traveling around when the destination is cheaper and maybe available with a lot of availabilities around hotels and sightseeing and also the airline.
Sure, you are smiling then. Have you got an angle on this?
No, I think I totally agree with what Milind says, but there is one more factor which Milind missed out on. See, what happens is it is not only the destination is cheaper. Normally, India, April, May, June is more leisure season where the demand for individual travel is more. So that is a period where we don't have much MICE movement because of the availability of airline seats or even the visa applications visas don't come out on time. So mostly, if you look at it, dealers July in terms of month, July to December or in November is high. And as Milind says, if there is a volume of business on rates, normally Europe, October, November is good in terms of numbers, because that also coincides with one of the biggest festival in India, which is as good as your Christmas, which is called Deepavali. So that is the time where they get a lot of holidays, so they try to travel. And that also has some complications. It's a little complicated. I don't want to explain that in this webinar.
Okay, there's some complications. I will leave it at complications is
That
a
is why we
frightening
are.
word. It's a
Yeah,
frightening word if you're
they
trying
don't
to
require us.
organize
It
things.
has to be
It's okay.
complicated. That's why we are existing.
This is true. This is true.
That's the
Fiona, you've got an
opportunity.
angle on this. Is there any particular seasonality that you can point to?
Well, I think we all know that we try to push more business through the winter, right? Well, if it's not, winter destination. So we can see that if the demand is in order to be competitive, if we can propose options, as a provider, I think that's where we come in to scout, the options and give the feedback to the agent to select. So based on facts of availability, of rates, of maybe also seasonality where there are either fruit available or there are things which they can see so that they can actually decide on facts which maybe they don't really know. So I think this is where we come in as a consultant as well, and not just, following whatever the agent tells us, because at the end, they would like us to lead them. And I think that's where, in my opinion, is where I can add value is by guiding them. So in order to get there, as Milind says, their airfares normally are cheaper in the low season. That means November until March, where I think that's more and more trend that there's flexibility. We can go in that direction. So I think also then capacity is less problematic. There's less volume around, so we can, go out of the box. We can do a lot of things. We can also have wow factors. So the lower season is coming in as an option, which we as a DMC really have to explain. And if we have this and we give this option, I do see that they are very open, because maybe they never really thought about it. Because people will always go through a season where, it's famous to go to Europe, I don't know, in spring, or go to Keukenhof season because that's when the tulips, are coming out. But maybe there are other ways to also enjoy Amsterdam, and you can have your peace and quiet because you can do a lot of things. There's no queue. There's a lot of things available where if you go in a high season, what you spend time on the roads, traffic jam, you queue up, you wait. So I think it's a matter of how do you manage your sales, that you bring this across to your customer so that they really see the plus and the minus of every season. And therefore, I believe the winter season will come up more and more because there's lots of things to do logistically in a much more effective way.
I think because Milind was referring to the fact that your top end people will want to go at the best time of year. Well, the best time of year may not be summer anymore. Summer has got complications. To use Sri's wonderful euphemism that I will now be using a lot. But it's and there is a lot to be said for visiting the peak. Well, any area in Italy in late January, February. It's cold. But it's not boiling hot. You don't want to be walking around in 40 degrees. And it's incredibly empty, parts of it.
Yes.
And you can go and visit sites which will normally restrict you to a 5 or 10 minute visit. You can take an hour over them if you wish to. And it's got a real wow factor being there in winter as opposed to being there in summer. So there's a lot to be said for it, and there's a lot to be said for going to regional areas of Europe that you guys are exploring. It was extraordinary at the beginning of the conversation that we were hearing about the Baltics, we were hearing about Albania, we were hearing about Eastern Europe, we were hearing about Croatia. These are not backward places or out of the way places, but they're not the mainstream bulk destinations for inbound long haul tourism. So you guys are actually rooting out areas which people don't normally go to, and you're arriving with real numbers. So this is heartening. Last question, which is how important is visa issuance? Do you need to be really confident that your guys are going to get visas comparatively quickly? I'll start with Sri because you just happen to be on the left-hand side of my screen.
See, I will say the visa is actually depending on the. I'm talking only from the MICE perspective, depending on the planning of the corporate. There are certain corporates who are very proactive and definitely try to do the cutoff actually at the right time. Suppose the visa processing time is 90 days, they cut off their eligibility and thing by before 120 days, and they start releasing the list and things like that. That is one set of that. There are certain corporates who want to do the buying, they negotiate and they finalize it probably 30 days. So I think it starts from there. And second thing is, since I represent the tour operating part, the issue, one of the biggest challenge in Indian MICE industry is, suppose, just for example, Sriram from Club Holidays is eligible for traveling on an incentive trip. What Sriram does, Sriram will authorize his cousin to travel on his behalf. So when we submit the list to the consulate, normally what happens is for a big group, we go to the consulate, we explain the group, we give them the profile, we talk about the corporate, we talk about the individuals, we do entire thing. Suddenly the corporate says instead of Sriram, there is a John who is going on the tour, who doesn't have any blood relationship with Sriram except that he is his sister's son. So what happens is that visa will get rejected or it will be on hold. So I think over a period of time, what we have seen is I have done handle big group to Switzerland. They turn around in 3 days. Wherein normal turnaround time for an individual is 15 days. So even last year I did a 700 group to UK. It was like a single window. If there is an issue, I was the one point contact for them. They send a mail. Is this document right? So I think most of the countries who are Western Europe and UK, we don't have a problem. But there are certain countries, I don't want to name it, they definitely have a problem. Okay. So visa, I would summarize, discipline is more important, as well as certain times it is better we do a presentation to the consulate much before the cases are submitted, so the consulate is aware. Sometimes they also plan their manpower accordingly. So otherwise what happens is we when most of them are going on leave, if our application goes, then definitely they don't know, have the heads up of the group, especially the group. I'm talking about the group size of more than 500.
Milind, do you have an angle on that?
No, I think this is majorly covered by Mr. Sriram. It's more so that we are also prepared as a destination management company when there's a proper discipline being followed by the agent and the corporate. What we do as a backup is we also have few relationship officers within our organization, which works closely with the consulate, and we do give them a dossier of what kind of groups are being available and what is expected in each month. And this gives them a heads up to run their manpower perfectly. And we, in addition to the agencies who's handling the groups, we also have a mechanism of giving a letter from Mickey Travel with the per passenger list to it. And that really solidifies the case and also understands and that gives a little more weightage to the entire travel document when we apply. So that, as rightly mentioned, if this is being done disciplined way, maybe 90 days prior or 60 days prior, the consulate really does not get bogged down, and the cases really move smooth.
Yeah, no. From your point of view, from your area in Bangkok, do you feel that the visas are relevant or?
Well, I think yeah, I mean, of course, most of the visas for India will go through Milind's hand and the teams, right? So we just are on the side where we have to manage if there are shortfalls. That means, cancellations. We have to manage these conditions where, of course, we never will always have rejections. But in order to go through smoothly, MICE groups, in some ways, as Rina mentions, you have to go in and inform the embassies or VFS or TLS in advance, and that they are prepared, because once they are prepared, they can also manage it accordingly and deliver according to the timeline, right? So I think you cannot just bombard an embassy with 600 packs and then you give them a timeline and like this is chaotic, right? So of course it's a matter of respecting each other. They want to deliver. I have a group. So with mice, the good thing is you always normally have one company guaranteeing. So I think it makes it easier that you can sail through maybe with less headache, whereas with leisure groups, you can't really stand for because it's so many people coming in and you cannot guarantee. But with mice, I find it still manageable because one person will pay, will represent, or there's company behind where also the embassy feels they can talk to somebody where they will know what is left and what is right. So I think that part helps really. For mice, maybe we have less issues than maybe on the leisure side.
See, fantastic. And we're reaching our hour limit here. So I would just like to really finish. The first thing I'll say very quickly is what a fascinating discussion. And I know this is the beginning of a dialogue. It isn't the end of a dialogue. And I'm really grateful to you to have kicked it off. But I suppose I've got one last question to ask you, which is if you had one piece of advice to an attraction or a hotel that wanted to attract mice business, and they all want to attract mice business, what should they do to attract the Indian audience? And I'll ask Milind to start off with, then we'll go to Sri, and then we'll go to Fiona. So Milind, could you think of one thing they should do?
Tom, the no-brainer answer is have an Indian chef in a hotel. I think that really resonates the entire group, and as the story which Fiona started and Sriram validated of Switzerland, and that's the story of every Indian group moving. If we have one hotel, and then it's called as an Indian village, it really works, and people are really magneted towards that entire thing. But one thing which is of course the culinary part, which is there. Secondly, if we need to have kind of an Indian stuff coming in there more. I think servicing them to have maybe Indian people there, I think that really works pretty well. And if we have people in the housekeepings or maybe in the reception area, in the concierge desk, I think that really changes the entire ballgame to attract Indians, because they not everyone is pretty familiar with the high-end English and the local languages there. So if someone is there speaking to them in their local language, I believe this can change the entire dimensions for that hotel or the areas.
Sri.
Yeah, as Milind says, I totally agree regarding the hotels. Little bit of the culinary part and the Indian reception in terms of Indian stuff will work. As far as attractions are concerned, I always whenever I talk about a big groups. Always I feel there are two issues normally faced by Indians. The time slot given to them is actually overshot, and they are arriving there after half an hour or 45 minutes in most of the attractions. Probably if they can give them a slot, exclusive slot, that will work. And one most important thing, this again a subset of most of the attractions. If it is the second half of the day, if the attractions can give hot water to the DMCs so that these guys have masala chai after the that is something which everyone will ask after the attraction is done. Immediately they want to have a tea or those type of small things.
Fiona?
Yeah, I mean, I would say if you want to get started, travel to India, get to know India and to understand, and then I think you will know what will fit into your etablissement or into your property. Because sometimes I think if we just create things on what we hear, whereas if you go there and you really do it, I think you can always also say, look, I've been there, I understand. And I think understanding will bring the bridge to a successful business connectivity to a destination, because yeah, I think culture is where we always clash. But if you embrace a culture, most probably there's already 50% of the job is done, because you will know what you need.
Absolutely.
will,
Make it,
and, mm,
yeah, what you're saying effectively is make them feel welcome. It's the important thing.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Thank you, audience.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Tom,
Thank
for
you,
having
so
Fiona.
much.
us.
And,
Thank you,
and
Srinam.
Thank you,
Thank
Milind. Thank
Linz.
you.
most
Have a
Thank you,
great day.
Rachel.
Have a nice weekend.
most importantly, thank you to our sponsor, Champions World, who you'll now hear from again. Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.